Hello students, so today we will be starting with another new chapter. The new chapter name is Constitution and the Society. You see, this topic is present in the class 11 book of Political Science part 1, and today we will be understanding that what are the other consequences of the Constitution. You see, last class we have understood what is Constitution and what are the characteristics of the Constitution, but right now we will be understanding that what are the other parts of the Constitution. So let us discuss. Now you see, if I talk about the constitution, in some parts of the country, constitution is very much strict. So there are limiting of the powers of the government. But if I talk about the Indian constitution, in our Indian constitution, there is not much limitation of the powers. As a result, much of the provision can be given to the society itself. Now you see, if I talk about here, the Indian constitution is a final example as it provides enabling framework for the government to do positive things. Now, Indian Constitution. Our Indian Constitution gives a positive framework to the government so that positive changes can be made to the society itself. Now, societies with deep entrenched inequalities of various kinds enable the government to take measures and empower themselves to overcome form of inequality or deprivation. You see, since centuries or since decades, we have known that poverty is the important issue in our country. So as a result, if the Indian constitution gives much power to the government, that the government can remove inequalities and poverty from our society. And poverty and inequality is a much more problem in our society, and it is a deep entrenched issue. For example, India aspires to be a society that is free of caste discrimination. It is this our society's aspiration. The government will have to be enabled or empowered to take necessary steps to achieve this goal. Now, if I talk about our country aspires to be free of caste discrimination. You see, if I talk about poverty and second comes the caste discrimination. You see, caste problem is very much an important issue in our country. If our Indian government is empowered, then it will enable to remove caste discrimination as well. If there will be no caste discrimination, then only people will modernize itself for a better society. South Africa had a history of deep racial discrimination. Its new constitution had to enable the government to end racial discrimination. Now, if I talk about South Africa, now you see, in South Africa, racial discrimination was the #1 issue. As a result, as the government improved itself, it has removed racial discrimination as well. Here, another example comes regarding South Africa. And South Africa, we know an example of Nelson Mandela. Now, Nelson Mandela actually took the step to remove caste discrimination or racial discrimination from that country. The framers of the Indian constitution, for example, though each individual in society should have all that is necessary to lead a minimal dignity and social self-respect. Now, according to the framers of the Indian constitution, it has been said that the society must have its own dignity. Every individual must live with a minimal dignity and respect in a society. As we know, according to the Article 21. According to the Article 21 of the Constitution, it means right to live with dignity and self-respect. Here also, if I give example about Nelson Mandela in South Africa, he fought for the racial discrimination. Why he fought for the racial discrimination? So that the black people get their own dignity and self-respect in the society. Now, minimum material well-being and education. You see, according to Article 21A, each and every individual has the right to education. So here also minimal dignity and self-respect and also education. Minimal material well-being and education is very much important. So according to the Indian constitution, what it has been said that much freedom must be given to the individuals of the society so that they can live with dignity, peace and with proper education. The fourth function. Now we will be understanding about the fourth function of the constitution. You see, the fourth function of the constitution is to enable that government to fulfill the aspirations of a society and create conditions for a just society. Now, according to the fourth function of a constitution, here it has been said that the government must be able to fulfill the aspirations of the society. The government must be able to fulfill the aspirations of the society. Then only the society will be able to fulfill their own aspirations, which means the government must support the society to fulfill its aspiration. So this is the fourth function of the constitution. Now, the fundamental identity of the people. Now, what is the fundamental identity of the people, and what is the meaning of the identity of a people? You see, as we have studied regarding the identity of the people, each and every individual has its own identity, and those identity can be improved with the help of the fundamental rights and duty. Yes, those fundamental rights and duty are being framed in the Indian Constitution so that each and every individual can live in a society. Most importantly, a constitution expresses the fundamental identity of a people. This means that the people as a collective entity came into being only through the basic constitution. Now you see, if I talk about a constitution expresses the fundamental identity of the people. It expresses the fundamental identity of the people. This means that people as a collective entity. Now, people as a collective entity is a part of the basic constitution. You see, each and every individual who is living in the society is a part of the basic constitution. It is by agreeing to a set of basic norms about how one should be governed, who should be governed, and that one forms a collective identity. By agreeing to the certain basic norms and principles, one constitutes one's basic political identity. Now, if I talk about the Indian Constitution, each and every individual is a part of the Constitution, which is collectively known as the collective identity. Yes, we are the part of the Constitution and we are maintaining unity as we are part of the Constitution and we are of the government and for the government. Yes, we must be governed by the government itself. Why? Because you see, the Indian Constitution actually manages the government. As a result, what are the rules and basic laws are there, we need to be governed by those rules and laws, so that we can maintain the unity and peace and integrity in our particular society. Now, by agreeing to the certain basic norms, yes, you see, by agreeing to the certain basic norms and principles, one constitutes one's basic political identity. If we go through the certain basic norms and practices or the principles, then only we will be part of the constitution. Then only we will be embracing the political identity. Yes, the political identity, which means if we are the part of the constitution, we will be going according to the rules and norms of the constitution. As a result, we will be embracing the political identity. We will be embracing the basic political identity of the constitution. I hope you have understood the first point. And second comes, constitutional norms are the overarching framework within which one pursues individual aspiration, goals and freedom. Yes, now if I talk about the Indian Constitution, it is a framework. It is a positive framework through which an individual pursues aspiration, goals and freedom, so that an individual can pursue its goals, freedom and aspiration. For that only the Indian Constitution has been set up for the people. The Constitution sets authoritative constraints upon one may or may not do so. It defines the fundamental values that we may not trespass. So the Constitution also gives moral identity. First, the Constitution gives political identity. Now, second comes the moral identity. Now, how Constitution provides us the moral identity? You see, we should not trespass. We should not trespass the fundamental values that is being provided by the Constitution itself. Whatever the fundamental rights and duties that are being framed in the Indian Constitution, we have to abide by them. If we abide by that, then only we will be according to the fundamental values, and we should not cross or trespass the fundamental values, which means we are maintaining the moral identity. First, we have maintained the political identity, which means according to the basic rules and condition. And second comes the moral identity, which means we should not cross our fundamental values. Then only each and every individual will be maintaining a proper moral identity. Third, and finally, it may be the case that many basic political and moral values are now shared across different constitutional traditions. You see, in each and every country pursues for moral identity and political identity as they are under a particular constitution. So as a result, it is now shared across different constitutional traditions. Now you see, maintaining political identity and moral identity is a part of a constitutional tradition and we are abiding by it. Now, fourth comes most Modern constitution create a form of government that is democratic in some respect. Most claim to protect certain basic rights. They differ in conception of natural identity. Now, most of the modern constitution you see in many parts of the country, most of the modern constitution is democratic in nature. Like for example, if we give the example of our country India, India is known to be the largest democratic country in the world, and here another comes that most claim to protect the certain basic rights. They differ in conception of natural identity. Now, every country has its own constitution, but each country varies from constitution to constitution. Different countries have different constitution. As a result, they differ in the conception of natural values. They differ in the conception of natural identity in values, which means most constitution doesn't have their own natural identity. Political identity can be there, moral identity can be there, but natural identity differs from one country to another. Now, most nations are an amalgamation of a complex set of historical tradition. They weave together the diverse group that reside within the nation in different ways. Now, you see, if I talk about the natural identity, it means in most of the countries there are no caste problems. Poverty problem is not there. So, as a result, this is an example of natural identity. But in our country, natural identity do exist. For example, some have the caste problem, some have the poverty problem. Here, most nations are an amalgamation of complex set of historical traditions. Yes, there are other countries which are complex just because for the historical tradition, they have complex historical traditions. So as a result, they weave together the diverse group that reside within the nation in different ways. For example, German identity was constituted by being ethnically German. The Indian constitution, on the other hand, does not make ethnic identity as a criterion for citizen. Now, if I talk about the German constitution is entirely made by the German identity. Now, if I talk about the Indian constitution, somewhere being taken from Israel, some of the ideas are being taken from the United States of America. Like, for example, if I talk about the fundamental rights idea was taken from the Israel constitution itself or from the Israel government. Just the ideas were being taken. But if I talk about the German constitution is completely defined by the German identity, which means whatever the German people will be thinking, whatever the problems the German people are facing, they are being framed in the Indian constitution. So that they are being framed in the German constitution. So as a result, whatever the laws and implementations are there, these are all according to the German identity in the German constitution itself. Now, the Indian constitution, on the other hand, does not make ethnic identity a criterion for citizen. Yes, if I talk about the Indian constitution doesn't make an ethnic identity. It doesn't make an ethnic identity, which means most of the ideas are being taken from other countries, and also different people have different viewpoints, and our country is full of diversity, which means full of different ethnicity. So as a result, there is no particular ethnic identity, but the German constitution has a particular ethnic identity, which means only the German people or those people of the German country only will be making the German constitution. But in our country, there is a diversity, there is different ethnicities. So as a result, the Indian constitution has been taken from the ideas of the different people, from the ideas of the different leaders, as well from the different countries as well. The ideas are being taken. Different nations embody different conception of what the relationship between the different regions of a nation and the central government should be. This relationship constitutes the national identity of a country. So different nations embody different conception of what the relationship between the different region of a nation and the central government should be. Now, if I talk about the relationship, here the relationship comes about the different regions of a nation and the central government should be. Now, different regions of a nation have a different relationship with the central government. Now, this relationship varies from country to country. Now, our region has a different relation with the central government, but here, in some parts of the country, the central government is not centralized. But here in our country, the central government is centralized. So, it varies from country to country. Also, this relationship constitutes the national identity of a country. Now, the relationship between the region to the central government, it varies from country to country. Also, it proves about the national identity, that what kind of national identity the particular country has. Here you see, this relationship constitutes the national identity of a country. Now, the national identity of a country varies from one country to another. First, we have understood about the political identity. Second, we have understood about the moral identity. And third, we have understood about the natural identity. And fourth comes the national identity, which means national identity also varies from one country to another. Here it has been said that what do you mean by national identity? It means that in a country, different region, what kind of relation the different region has with the central government, which means the regions have more power in comparison to the central government, or the central government has more power in comparison to the region government. But in our country, the central government has maximum power in comparison to the state government. So here it has been said. But now, if I talk about federalism in our country, the powers are being divided. Some of the powers are there in the central government and the other powers are there in the state government. You see, in our country, the powers, you can say, are equally distributed, but in other countries that their power is not equally distributed. You see, if I talk about politics, if I talk about constitution, it is a very complex process. Now, we will be understanding about the authority of the constitution. Now, what is the authority of the constitution? What kind of power our constitution has? What is a constitution? How effective is a constitution? Is a constitution just? Now, let me ask you one question to you all, that what is a constitution? We have understood about the meaning of the constitution, which means a book of rules, or the basic rules and regulation that is embedded in a particular book. And second comes, how effective is a constitution? Is a constitution effective for a particular country? Do people follow the rules of the constitution? Is a constitution just? Is a constitution just a normal? Do you think that people go through the constitution? Now, constitution is a compact document that comprises a number of articles about state, specifying how a state is to be constituted and what norms it should follow. Now, if I talk about the constitution, first of all, constitution is a compact document. It is a compact document where there are a number of articles. Number of articles are there, and in those articles there are rules, regulation, and proper implementations are there, according to which the people of the society, the people of a particular state goes through, which means they have to abide by those rules and conditions. Now, the state is to be constituted and what norms it should follow. Now, how the state is to be constituted and what norms the state should follow, these are all part of a particular specific constitution. You see, constitution is all about norms. It means all about norms and what the state should follow and what the state should follow. The United Kingdom, for instance, do not have a single document that can be called the Constitution. Rather, they have a series of documents and decisions that are taken collectively referred to as the Constitution. Now, if I talk about United Kingdom, the United Kingdom has a single document of Constitution. As you know about our country has the longest Constitution in the world. But if I talk about the United Kingdom has a single document of Constitution. They have a single document of the constitution. Rather, they have a series of documents and decisions that are taken collectively referred to as the constitution. Now, what kind of constitution they have? They have a constitution which have a series of documents and decisions. They have a series of documents and decisions which are being decided by them, which are being decided by their council itself. So this is the constitution. You see, whatever the rules and norms we have, these are all embedded in the Indian constitution. These are all imprinted in our own constitution, but there the decisions are taken more priority. Whatever the decisions, whatever the laws they want to implement, they all decide among themselves. Their council will be deciding what to do next. So for that reason, their constitution is a single document constitution if I talk about the United Kingdom. But many constitutions around the world exist only on paper. They were mere words existing on a parchment. Now, in some of the countries, constitution is not taken very seriously. In most of the countries, their constitution is not taken seriously. As a result, they only exist on paper. They only exist on paper, or they have little words. They have mere words which are being imprinted on a parchment. In a small piece of paper, those words are being imprinted, because in most of the countries, constitution is not taken seriously. So you see, in most of the countries, there comprises the authority of the constitution, but in other countries there is no authority of the constitution. So it differs from country to country. I hope you have understood regarding this chapter. So today, today we will be going for the important MCQs. We will be solving some important MCQs so that you can strengthen the knowledge of this chapter. Now, who made the Indian Constitution? Now, who made the Constitution of India? Can you tell me who made the Constitution of India? Yes, the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly made the Constitution of India. Next question, which of this is not the function of the Constitution? It gives a guarantee of the rights of the citizen. It marks out different spheres of power. It ensures that good people come to power. It gives expression to some values. Now, which is not the part of the Constitution, or which is not the function of the Constitution? So the correct answer will be C. So the correct answer will be C. It ensures that good people come to power. It ensures that good people come to power. It doesn't mean that good people will come to power. According to the Constitution, equality is given to each and every individual. So as a result, there is no such term, good people. Now, the third question, the freedom of speech and expression falls under Article 17, Article 16, Article 18 or Article 19. Now, which is the correct answer? Yes, Article 19 gives the freedom of speech and expression. It comes under Article 19. Now, let's come to the fourth question. A constitution is a body of basic laws, rules, principles or moral values. Now, what is a constitution? Now, what is the constitution actually signifies? Rules, principles, values. You see, it can be basic laws also, basic rules also. But here, we will be giving basic laws. Rules can be anything. It can be basic rules as well. It can be any kind of rules. But here, the most important term is the basic laws. It will be basic laws. Principle will not be correct answer. Moral values will not be correct answer. Why? Because you see, principle and moral values comes from the basic laws itself. So, it is the term basic laws that is the part of the constitution, or is a part of the body of the constitution. Now, a body of fundamental principles according to which a state is constitution is known as convention, constitution, law, tradition. So, what is the correct answer here? A body of fundamental principle according to which a state is constituted is known as a constitution. Yes, the correct answer is the constitution. Now, which of the following provisions of the Indian Constitution was passed without virtually a debate? Now, introduction of universal suffrage, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy or parliamentary democracy. Now, which is the important element, which is the important provisions of the Indian Constitution was passed without virtually any debate, which means there was no debate or any kind of constraint while passing this law. Yes, the introduction of universal suffrage. Now, what do you mean by the universal suffrage or universal adult franchise, which means each and every individual will get the right to vote after the age of 18 years. So this is universal adult franchise, or universal, or you can say universal suffrage. Now, the seventh question. Parliament gets to decide about laws and judiciary, laws and policy, judiciary application, or none of the above. Now, what will be the correct answer here? So, Parliament gets to decide about laws and policy. Yes, the parliamentary will be discussing about laws and policies. Now, the third function of the Constitution represents. Now, what is the third function of the Constitution? Providing a set of basic rules to specify who has the power to make decisions, to set limits on what a government can impose, none of the above. Now, what will be the correct answer here? Yes, to set limits on what a government can impose. So, this is the third function of the Constitution, to set limits on what a government can impose. Now, here the ninth question comes. The fourth function of the Constitution represents. Now, what does the fourth function of the Constitution represent? The fundamental identity of the people, to enable the government fulfill the aspirations of a society, limiting powers of the government in many ways, or none of the above. So what will be the correct answer here? Yes, the fourth function, as we have already studied, to enable the government fulfill the aspirations of the society. Yes, this is the correct answer, to enable the government to fulfill the aspirations of the society. Now the last question. The Indian Constitution enables the government to take measures legally constituted, legally enforceable, both of them or none of them. So what will be the correct answer here? Yes, it will be legally enforceable, which means the Indian Constitution enables the government to take measures which are legally enforceable, which means which are legally being implemented by the government itself. I hope so you have understood my class, and if you want to know any of the courses regarding the Bhadra Academy, then you can contact us in this number 863839172. Thank you.